Thanks, Mark. Happy to be here. And I just want to say I signed up for the Garrison retreat yesterday. Really looking forward to that. And I'm just coming back from a 2-week trip to Lithuania and Latvia and still feeling the jet lag. And even as I hear you talking about, the Netzach part of this day, I'm going to focus really on the Malchut Shechina part of it, of this whole week, in a particular way. Um, so after the redemption, liberation from Egypt that we enacted at Passover, 46 days ago, we are quickly coming to Shavuot, to that 50th gate and the time of receiving Torah on Mount Sinai. And many of us have been using this practice, moving through the 49 gates, that 7 times 7 of the Sfirot, as a way of preparing to open ourselves to revelation, to receive Torah again, as if for the first time. And this is that being the drama of the holiday of Shavuot. And this whole counting, this extended 49-day period of practice of refining ourselves and refining our own receptivity, leading to, I like to think of it as receiving, the Torah of my life, the Torah of our lives. What is that? I gave you a definition, but I'm not, I'll give you a bit because I think that's a constantly unfolding answer. What is the Torah of my life? The learning of what it's like to be alive in this body, in this world, as a human, in relationships, in nourishing relationships, in difficult relationships, all the things that it means to be alive here in this world. So one way that we have been practicing over this period of time is through meditation. And when we sit, we begin with the intention to rest the attention on the breath. Just let it rest there. And breath being that special anchor that's both voluntary and involuntary. And of course, you can rest it on some other simple anchor, like just the feeling of your feet on the ground. So we rest the attention. We don't strap it down. We just rest it, let it rest. We allow it to rest on just one thing in order to let the mind settle. So imagine the attention settling like spring rain soaking into thirsty soil, drop by drop. Or a butterfly after flying around energetically, erratically, use whatever metaphor you imagine that butterfly flying around with, and then finally gently settling on one flower, wings folding into perfect stillness. So we allow the mind to rest, to settle on one thing, any amount. And that is relaxing in itself and good in itself. And it takes courage to just sit here. It takes courage to just sit here and not get up and respond to worry or planning or daydreaming, allowing the mind to settle any amount. But it's not necessarily the end of practice. What can come of a settled mind? And that's where I'm going to answer today. Awakening receptivity to the Torah of our lives. With a settled mind, I may become a little more receptive to what it means to be alive. The deep noticing of our actual experience. like that spring rain settling down, settling deep to nourish roots and seeds that are waiting to emerge, like that butterfly that's feeding on that flower and being nourished by that flower. So this week is the week of Malchut, also known as Shekhinah, the final sphira of the Kabbalistic spiritual imagination of that tree of life, where we've been counting the last seven sphirot: Chesed, Gevura, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, Yesod, Malchut. The Kabbalists imagine those seven as also representing the 7 days of creation, with Malchut or Shekhinah as the seventh day, which is rest, which is Shabbat, rest and renewal. And she also, Malchut Shekhinah, connects the upper and lower worlds. The upper worlds that are in the cosmic realm and the lower world, which is us. And when things are aligned, we may be open to that possibility that sacred energy flows through down to us. So we're going to sit, rest our attention on one thing, and if the mind settles, be receptive to this experience of being alive. Just rest and maybe receive any amount of flow of sacred energy. So go ahead and adjust your posture in any way that allows you to feel both relaxed and alert. I'll guide you for just a couple minutes and then we'll go into silence. Choose your anchor for your attention, whether it's the breath or something grounded like the feeling of your feet on the floor. Feel the belly expand and contract with each breath. Throughout the entire inhale and exhale. Sense that feeling of the attention beginning to rest so gently on this breath. Notice if you feel any sense of holding on to the breathing process. Can you let that relax any amount? Deeply let be into the bodily feeling of the breath, or whatever you're using for your anchor, and let that draw you into oneness with it, as if the breath is doing the knowing. Let the breath meditate you. And if the mind wanders, let that feeling of the breath, just like that butterfly, settle on that one flower and allow the wings to fold into stillness. letting the attention rest and be receptive to the flow of sacred energy. thank you all for your presence and making that delicious for each other. As we were arriving, I noticed, first a few people, and I noticed my own feeling as more and more people arrived. It's like, oh, yes, we are building something here. And thank you all for your attention, your presence to hold this down for us all together, that rest and receptivity.
Thank you so much, Julie, for holding us with that beautiful Shekhinah presence today. Really so appreciative. Beautiful practice today. Let's hold that pose, as we say. Hope everyone can stay present to support those of us who are in mourning or observing a yard site in this season, or for whom it's the custom to join in the mourner's Kaddish. If you're not reciting Kaddish, you can participate by staying present. So thanks to Harry for sharing the words of the mourner's Kaddish on the screen. If you're reciting it, you can put the name or names of anyone you're honoring today in the chat now or after we recite Kaddish. And I invite you to join me by rising in body or in spirit, and you can unmute at this time. Yitkadal, Rashmi Rabba, Ayechon, Yom Israel, Magalat, Ankarit, Imru, Heshme, Rabba, Barach, Lamed, Barach, Ishtabach, Bahar, Dar, Yitalem, Yitkalam, Shemit, Kusata, Elam, Birchot, Yushbachata, Benachama, Amen. Ishlama Rabbi, Ayav, Achim, Leinu, Israel, Amen. Shalom, Bimrama, Kol Yisrael, Yoshvei Tevel, Imru, Amen.
Amen.
Friends, thanks so much for joining us today. If you're leaving us now, hope you'll join us tonight. Again, a reminder, join us tonight if you can at 8 p.m. to mark our 5 years plus of the daily sit, or tomorrow at our usual time. Rabbi Mira Nicolescu will lead us to sit into Shabbat and into Shavuot as we arrive at Sinai to receive Torah. So hope you'll join us for a beautiful session tomorrow as well. Thanks to Harry Gilboa for holding our space. And thanks so much to Marion Ross for sponsoring our practice today on the occasion of Rabbi Rachel Cowan's birthday. May her memory be a blessing, and it definitely is a blessing in many ways, including through this practice and this community that gathers. So Marion, thank you so much as always for your presence and your support in all forms. Please stay on if you can. You can continue just to sit. It was such a beautiful stillness and presence today. If you'd like to keep it going, you can go right back to your anchor, turn off the sound, and just stay with us and use the support of our group in your own practice, where you can join us for a conversation, Cantor Julie Newman. If you have a question you'd like to ask Julie, please put it in the chat. You can preface it by writing question, all in caps. I'll try to work that in to the conversation. Julie, thanks. That was really just so lovely. It's when you were teaching at the beginning, and then before you got us into practice, I was sort of mentally underlining a number of things you said. I got to remember that when I asked Julie about that. Not I wanted to ask you about it. I just felt like I was kind of mentally taking notes, and because there's so many things that I thought, oh, that's really just so helpful. That's so helpful. That's so helpful. So just by way of appreciation. Of course, I can't remember what they were now. So maybe they will come back. The one I do remember that I just wanted to underscore and maybe you'd like to elaborate on a little bit is the kind of it was I was thinking about the the theory of change, but why we do this and what what it leads to, in addition
Yeah,
to just settling down, which we
right.
all we don't even need the science to know that sitting, settling, anchoring ourselves, slowing and pausing, it's good for our well-being, good for our mental health, makes us more resilient, et cetera, et cetera. But you also pointed out that it's we're leading into the season of receiving Torah and what that represents. And you raised the point, and it's kind of a hypothesis, really, right? That when we do that, when we settle, that there is a wisdom that arises. You said it a few different ways. You said something about you. I think you said something about experience, um, but that when we settle, we create the conditions for wisdom to arise. We call it Torah, right?
Yeah.
And there are so many midrashim and so many beautiful Jewish traditions about why Torah was given in the wilderness and what happened at Sinai. So I wanted to just invite you. That struck me as really an important point and observation, and also a hypothesis. To see whether in fact that holds true for
Yeah.
people in our own experience. So I just wanted to invite you to see if you have any response to that or want to expand on that.
Well, and maybe a lot of you have this experience too, that there are moments in your practice where you remember one teacher said one thing that like kept you on the path. Like, and for me, one of the things, and I'll get back to what I was saying today, but one
Hmm.
of the things was when Sheila said, you can change your mind, like neuroplasticity,
Right.
and that is just a thing that has lived with me. This is another thing. My friend and teacher, another meditation teacher, Rhonda Rosen, who says, well, yeah, being still, like stilling the mind, that's just the beginning. I'm like, that's just the beginning. And like the beginning for what? um, and it's
Hmm.
kind of amazing. It's like, oh, settling the mind because we work, we work to rest it, we work to settle it. And that's why I use those words of we let the attention rest. We don't strap it down. We don't nail it down. We just let it. And then we get to see what arises out of that. There's
Hmm.
a really beautiful teaching, and I haven't looked it up in a while, so I can't remember. I think it was Moses de Leon. I know it was Zohar. Out of the word wisdom, out of chokhmah, you break it in two, and you turn it into chakeh ma. Wait for what? Wait for what? So I'm sitting here waiting for what?
Hmm.
And there's a part of me that's like looking for fireworks and lights and dancing people and whatever. But no, oh, right. This is what it's like to be alive in this body in this moment. This is it.
Hmm.
And I don't mean that as diminishing in any way. This is what it's like to be alive. And all of those things. And so I gave a long list of, this is what it's like to be alive and learning and be
Hmm.
awake
Hmm.
and feeling well-being or feeling pain, which is just as useful to know, like to look if I'm feeling pain in my body somewhere, to as the Buddhists say, the obstacle is the path, to go and bring curiosity to that twinge or that serious pain and see it's not all one solid thing, that
Hmm.
it's made up of a variety of things, to wait and see what this aliveness feels like. Oh, and you said something about from yesterday about constant movement. Was
Hmm.
there something about constant movement
Yep.
and
Yep.
that this, yeah, that this aliveness, even with that image of the butterfly resting on the thing and
Hmm.
the wings still, you know,
Hmm.
it's feeding, it's still moving, the proboscis is still moving, when we
The
are
what? The
perfectly
what are still moving?
still, it's a proboscis. It's, it's another word for nose, but for the butterfly, it's that thing. Yeah. Anyway,
Okay.
um,
Thank you for
word
that.
for the day.
You people, you can learn a lot here.
um, but when we are perfectly still, oh, wait a minute. My heart's still beating. My internal organs are still moving. Like
Mhm.
nothing is ever like total. And this is what it's like to be. And I don't even notice that until I settle down enough to notice that.
Yeah. Great.
So, this whole idea of rest so that I can see what else is happening
Hmm.
is that's kind of a big part of my personal practice right now.
That's great. That's great. I mean, it's a beautiful follow-up to our practice yesterday with Sheer Me or a Fight, which was, very closely related to that. But I want to nudge it a little further into the question of wisdom. And
Yeah.
Laura had asked a question that's really on point about what you were just saying about how meditation helps us open up to receptivity. How do we go from a
Yes.
physical state to this spiritual opening? And it feels to me as though what you just said about waking up to aliveness is part of that process. Um, but then there's actually content, that there's actually like wisdom. You use the Hebrew word chokhmah, and that really wonderful little drosh there about like, wait for what. And it makes me think about all those midrashim I was alluding to earlier about like what actually happened at Mount Sinai, to receive Torah. And there's many, many midrashim about actually, like you was just talking about all the dance, what you're talking about, like noise and dance and music and
Right.
dancing. There's
Right.
like there's a big tumult and a lot of to do
Yeah.
and kind of a loud scene in Exodus 19. Go check it out like later if you want. But then there are the Ten Commandments. And the Midrashim kind of fill that in basically by saying that, yeah, there was a lot of noise, but then it was absolutely still. It was, what you even
Yeah.
I don't think they mentioned butterflies, but even the butterflies weren't moving or making there was no motion. There was absolute stillness. And out of that, Torah, wisdom arose out of the aliveness. I guess it's kind of interesting just talking about this, Julie. Like,
Yeah.
that can think like, well, why is there all the sound and light show? Why is the thunder and lightning and the mountain is shaking? And um, that kind of represents that energy
Yeah.
that like gets the attention. Like, wow, there is aliveness here,
Yeah.
and then
But
quiet
it's
down.
also the
Mm,
synesthesia of hearing sights and seeing sounds,
hmm.
because when you get into that, you're getting past words, even though it's a moment of debrot, serata
Right.
debrot, but we're getting past. And so when we settle, can we be receptive to knowing what is happening in our experience that maybe we don't have language for? And that's what's really hard to know. The things that if we don't have language for it, it's very hard to know.
Hmm.
And so we sit, so we start to learn, and we learn it a little bit at a time, and it's very slippery. And just like you were saying, oh, that was I wanted to remember something that you said, but I forgot it, because we're in this different state.
Hmm.
We're not in the inventory state. We're not in the grabbing onto.
Right.
We're in a very different state, and so we're receptive to a side of life, a side, a way of experiencing our humanity that is different than our day to day, which, our day to day is very necessary. When I drive my car, I want to know where the boundaries are and all of that kind of thing, so I don't run into something else. But when we sit, those boundaries are different, and I start to get some wisdom of like, oh, that's what wanting feels like. Oh, that's what doubt feels like. Oh, that's what Okay, so for me, I use this phrase of sitting in vinegar. It's my own personal feeling of, I don't know, anxiety, or I'm just annoyed, and I get to know that feeling and see where it shows up in my rest of my normal life. And I get to see what happens before it, what happens after it. I get to make some choices. But it's almost in this potent, it's not nonverbal. It's just where words are kind of running out. I just don't have the language for it. But I start to identify feelings. And also the other one is I did all the bad ones, the anxiety and all that, but there's also open to sacred energy. And
Mhm.
that is my personal work. I live with a lot of doubt, a lot of fear, a lot, and I know I'm not alone. But the reason I have stuck with this and why I'm like teaching it, because I think it's so important, it's like, can I also be open to the sacred energy? Because that is just as present all the time.
It's a great teaching. And especially we just said, Julie, for this day, this day of Netzach, that, energy in Shekhinah, um, awareness of the aliveness of sacred energy, really, like, right? That's what we're tuning into today. And you brought it. Thank you.
Oh,
Thanks for
great.
thanks for bringing the Shekhinah energy today. See in the chat, a couple of things. First of all, Harry, is this your birthday? What is that?
No, no, it's not, but
It's not.
did
Okay. All
everyone say
right.
it?
All right.
Yeah.
That was a rumor. That was a rumor
Thank you,
going
everyone.
on.
Yeah.
Okay. It was rumored. Well,
But
it's
thank you.
somebody's birthday, I see. So happy birthday to whoever
Mhm.
it was.
Yeah, yeah.
I also see there was
Happy birthday.
a mention that some people haven't received the link for the program tonight. Um, Thanks, Harry, for letting people know. If I got it in my email, so people should get it. Maybe you want to check your spam, and if not, check in with support at yourspirituality.org. It's our support line, and people will get you that. And some people are
Can,
asking, can they come late? And you certainly can. I think it's going to run from 8 to 8:45. I think that's the plan, about 45 minutes, just like our daily sessions. Okay. Many thanks, Julie. As always, a lot of appreciation. Thank you. You've been leading with us for almost the beginning. Really so appreciative for all you have contributed to this community, and in addition to the yoga sessions that you've led and all you've done. So thank you so much for that. Thanks, Marion, for sponsoring in memory of Rabbi Rachel Cowan today on occasion of what would have been her birthday. May her memory be a blessing. Thanks to Harry and thanks to each of you. Hope to see you tonight, 8 Eastern time. And if not, sometime soon. Many blessings, everyone. Be safe and well.
Thanks, Mark. Thank you, everyone.